Okay.
Okay.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Kaleidoscope of the Arts. I'm one of your hosts, Marie LaBrosse,
And I'm Dee Dee Gozion.
and you're listening to us from WKDW 97.5 FM, Rural Community Radio out of Northport, Florida, and you're listening to us on the Bishop West Real Estate Tower. Now, Dee Dee,
Yes.
it's been a long time since we've seen each other and lots happened, but enough about that because we don't want to talk about my health issues. So let's talk about what's happening at that Northport Art Center that you're at.
Excellent. This is Wednesday, and tonight there is it's the 5th, Wednesday the 5th. And tonight is the Northport Art Center has a reception for the Northport High School students. At this reception, there is art all over the Art Center posted of all the artists of the Northport High School, and it is amazing as always. Different kind of fresh things you don't see normally. And there's a scholarship for $500 given to one lucky recipient, and other awards and prizes will be handed out. So the public is invited. It starts at 6 o'clock. And there'll be refreshments, and please come and enjoy the show. If you can't come this evening, this show will be hanging until the 15th of April. So please come and check out what the wonderful art that the high school students are doing. The wonderful art program. They're actually a magnet school here in Florida. So they just do amazing work. We also have a Sunshine Services free paint party here on the 15th of April. So anybody that's interested in doing a paint along with the group, please call the Art Center at 941-423-6460 and sign up. I think we still have at least 5 seats left for that free art party. And we also have an event that we're going to be talking about coming up. And I'll let Richard talk about that when he comes on. So
Okay, very good, Dee Dee. So anything else? And let's actually give a kudos to our sponsor. And who's our sponsor for our show, Dee Dee?
Oh, our sponsor is always the wonderful Wendy Namack from Namack Portfolio Investments. And I'll give you
You're looking at the bottom of
just a moment, because it's coming along the bottom of my screen. Sponsored by Namack Portfolio Investments Professionals, LLC. And it is www.namack.com, and her phone number 941-429-2911, or email wendy@namack.com to find more about her.
Yeah, very good. And one of the things that we like to say to our sponsors is we couldn't do these shows without our sponsors. It takes a lot, even though we're an all-volunteer radio station. It takes money to pay for the lights and for all the things that we have to do for the I'm having a blank right now because it's been a while since I've been on the show, but we have to pay for services and stuff, and for licensings and for FCC regulation things. So with that being said, Dee Dee, I'm going to put us both like this.
There you go.
There we go. And Dee Dee goes, Marie, put us farther in the back, right? Like that. So I want to talk about the guests that we're having today, because Richard Krevolin is not only an award-winning professor, he is a professor. Do you know anything about Richard, Dee Dee?
Me personally?
Yeah.
Well, I know that he is a playwright. I know that he is a producer. I know that he is a book author. I know that he does fiction and nonfiction books. And I know he has a huge repertoire of books. I looked up all his books. I've read a couple, and it's amazing. Richard is a very talented visual artist. He has some really fun pieces that we've had him up at our city hall with the show, and we've had him at Welland Park with the show. So he's a very talented man. I don't know of anything Richard can't do.
Exactly. Well, he's an award-winning screenwriter, author, playwright, and professor. He is a professor And he's a graduate of Yale too. He went to earn his master's degree in screenwriting at UCLA School of Cinema Television and a master's degree in playwriting and fiction from USC. And he taught both undergrads and grad screenwriting classes at USC Cinema TV School. And there's so much more. In fact, go to his websites and I'll be bringing those up for you to go and look at. He actually, well, you know what? Let's bring him on because I could go on. I could take up the whole time talking about his accolades. And we want to see the man of the hour. Hello, Richard.
Hello. How are you?
Good. Richard, you're sitting back and thinking, those two girls are really messing up my repertoire here. You've taught so many, over 20,000 students worldwide, and you've done so much for the screenwriting and for the talent of people out there that you've taught. Well, tell us who that we would know. Who is one of your students?
I'm lucky. I mean, when I was at USC, I had a lot of students, and you never know who's gonna make it. Right now, probably the most famous guy, a guy by the name of John Chu, was a sweet kid. He was like 18 years old. Jonathan M. Chu went on to, he is now one of the most successful directors in Hollywood. If you saw In the Heights, he directed that. Now, Wicked, have you heard of Wicked?
Oh, I've seen Wicked many times on Broadway.
Well, of all the people in the world, they picked John to direct that for Hollywood. So he's become one of probably the most successful director of musicals in Hollywood today. He directed the biggest documentary of all time, which was actually about Justin Bieber. It's fun when it's just a numbers game. If you teach 20,000 people, a few of them are gonna do well. I just reconnected. I wrote a book called Screenwriting from the Soul many years ago. And somehow a copy went all the way to Mumbai, India, place we used to call Bombay, and a teenage boy who wanted to be a writer read it, and we, through the magic of the, email, I kind of mentored this kid, and he grew up to be the biggest writer of Bollywood movies in the world.
Wow.
And he wrote the movie Om Shanti Om, which is
I love that one.
Yeah, that's Mustak's movie. And he was in Orlando last week and we were trying to connect. He made jeans for the Bollywood. I sent him years ago. I sent him some jeans and they put all the glitter. They made a Bollywood jeans for me, and they're in the mail right now. He's in New York City right now. So it's fun. You never know, when you create art, it has legs and it goes out into the world, and you never know who it will affect. I mean, if you're a teacher, you see that. I'm sure Dee Dee can tell stories of the teachers. You never know who's going to walk in the door. You never know how you're going to affect people. And then you never know what your legacy will be, because there are people. This was a little kid in India who liked my book. And of course I emailed him back and I inspired him to write movies, and he ended up becoming big time. And, I'm going to try to bring him in next year to talk to people in Florida. I've just been very fortunate. It's been sad. My writing partner of 20 years, the wonderful Academy Award nominated writer Joe Bologna, passed away recently. So I'm still kind of dealing with the loss of my writing partner. And he taught me a tremendous amount. So I'm trying to extend his legacy. So I always teach the world certain things he taught me. And his name is a name that I want to keep alive. So we're all part of this tapestry and kaleidoscope of the arts where we stand on each other's shoulders. And, I had a director. You never know who's going to help you and who you're going to affect. I met a guy who is a Mormon in Utah, a wonderful director. And he said it's part of his religion. It's as a result of his religion, he believes we are here to help other human beings. And there are a lot of people that I've repeated that we are here to help other human beings. And through the arts, I think, that's why I love the Arts Center. The Arts Center is the service. We are, it's funny, we have Sergeant Philip Moore, and you always say, Philip, thank you for your service. But nobody goes up to Dee Dee and says, Dee Dee, thank you for your service. But she's doing the same thing. She's being of service to the community. But we're not trained to thank people in the arts. We're only trained to thank people in the military. So that's really become a big part of my life. I lucked out and found a lovely house in Venice during COVID. Moved out of Hollywood, have had enough. I'm painting and still teaching on Zoom. I do private Zoom classes with students all over the world. And then I found the Arts Center, and it's become very important for me to, once I heard the Arts Center is losing its space, to make sure the Arts Center finds a new space. And I said, how can I help? And so we're going to screen a movie. So this, I don't know, with the light, it's kind of hard it's interesting. There you go. Kind of. So this movie is about how art saves lives in a very real sense. It's a 55-minute documentary.
And if you look on the screen right now, it's making light into how do you say
like Terezin, like magazine.
Okay.
Magazine.
Yeah.
You might have heard the term Theresienstadt. So the Nazis called it Theresienstadt. But we don't want to prioritize the Nazis. So we call it Terezin, which is what the Czechs called it. It's a real town, 30 miles north of Prague. You can go there today. It's like a living museum. I actually slept in there for a week. And it's a truly haunted place. Now, it wasn't a death camp. It was essentially concentration camp. So if you hear the word, what is a concentration camp? Well, they took all the Jews in Europe and they concentrated them essentially in ghettos. So imagine, due to your religion, if you are told you have to leave your home, you get one bag, you have to get on a train and go to this place. And this place was special. All the artists, all the musicians were sent there because the Nazis created what was called a Potemkin village. It was a piece of Nazi theater. So they took all the creative people that were Jewish in Europe. It was the single greatest concentration of creative geniuses in the history of the world because they were forced to go there. They were then forced to live there. And then they would invite the Red Cross or anybody who was interested and say, oh, we're not killing Jews. They're living peacefully in this place. And they would do concerts and they would do art. So the children created art. and then they would show the world, look, they're creating art, they're doing cabaret, they're doing opera, and it was all happening in this place. They do a show, and then after the Red Cross would leave, they would then ship these people off to death camps. And so this is the story of a cabaret piece that was written in 1942. The guy who wrote it was shipped off to Auschwitz. We never got to see the piece perform. He survived, and we took him to the camp, and we had young people doing the show he wrote, and you get to watch him watch the show he wrote, and that's what the movie's about. So it's called Making Light because it's a comedy. So in the face of death, they did a comedy to help them survive, and this man survived.
That's a beautiful, beautiful tribute for them to have lived through that, and how art can save people too. It's a way to promote mental health, even because even in today's, like you were talking about Philip Moore, he started,
Right.
Art of War, and it's healing because of through art what he went through over in Iraq and through the war and stuff. What made you want to do this project?
Once in a while, you just feel like things are. It's gonna sound a little like California, artsy fartsy. It felt like I was destined. I was flown to Minneapolis to work with a theater company because they were producing a play I wrote about a rabbi and a gospel singer who fell in love. And the director of that play and I were having lunch. And what do you talk about? Like, so what do you got next? What's coming up? And she said, we're going to Prague. We're going to sleep in this concentration camp, and we're going to put on a show in the original space in the attic where they did the show in 1942. And so I'm from Hollywood. I'm a filmmaker. So I said, well, you have a film crew, right? This is a once in a lifetime thing. You're going to take, you have to get this on film. It'll never happen again. The survivors are coming to watch it. This is an event that needs to be memorialized on film. And she goes, we're in Minnesota. In Minnesota, we don't have film crews. We don't live in Hollywood.
I'm originally from Minnesota. So
yeah. I mean, we don't have film crews everywhere. So I said, I've never made a documentary before, but would you allow me if I put together a crew to go and make this movie? And she's like, sure. She gave me the rights to follow them. I put together a crew. I used my credit card, and I made a movie. And I felt like I had to do it because if I didn't, no one would ever know about this. And I had recently gotten divorced, and I needed something to do, take my mind off my troubles. So we got on a plane. I'll never forget when we were getting on the plane, they found gunpowder residue on my camera. I don't know how that got there. They said you're not, they pulled me aside. Only time that's ever happened. I don't think it was gunpowder. It was something resembling gunpowder. I don't know. But then the guy found out what we were doing. He said, you need to make this movie, go. And he let me on the plane. And it just seemed like that kept happening. I had survivors that had never spoken. So you have to realize if you live through the Holocaust, you really have no desire ever to talk about it. So many of these people had hidden the fact that they were Holocaust survivors, raised their children without any knowledge that they were Jewish or survivors. And then I showed up in Prague and got a call. Judith has never told anyone that she survived the Holocaust, but she wants to tell you her story. She's not doing well and needs to tell someone the story before she passes away. So there were people that just seemed to rise up for me, and I got them on camera, and they're all gone now. This was 2012. Nobody. The guy who wrote the lyrics went to Auschwitz, survived, lived an entire life, became a docent at Terezin stop, was a docent, the most remarkable man you've ever met. He became the main character in the movie. We interviewed him. He gave me his book. He took me into his home. He became my hero. We did the interview. Now he's gone. He was 92 when I interviewed him.
Oh.
And I was the last person to interview him. And that was, and so the movie is dedicated to all these people. They all were around for me. None of them are left. So I had to have done it when I did it. And it was on PBS. A lot of people saw it. I went around the country doing some film festivals, but it's just sitting on my shelf now, and I said, what better movie to, how do we raise money, Dee Dee? We need money. We need money, baby. Show me the money. And I said, well, I have all the rights to this. This is my movie. I paid for it. Can I screen it? And I live at the Venice Golf and Country Club. We have a beautiful clubhouse. And I went to the program director there, and they found out, well, we have a community foundation, and we have a program that if you are a not-for-profit, we will donate the venue. So the venue has been donated for the evening. I've got a lot of paintings that I'm also donating to be done in a silent and not so silent auction. If you aren't a member of the club, the only thing we're asking is you call the club. The number is here, but we need to know how many meals to prepare, because you are getting a nice dinner with the movie. It's dinner and a movie, and the chef needs to know how many meals to prepare. And we're keeping track. So if you just call the receptionist, they'll write your name down.
The phone number is 941-492-9600. And I have it 492-9600. I have it screening across the bottom. Tickets are $49. The date is Monday, April 17th. It's Making Light in Terezin on April 7th at the Venice Golf and Country Club. If you've never been there, it's beautiful. And it's 941-492-9600. You must call for reservation. And the proceeds from it will be going to the Northport Art Center, correct?
Yeah, Dee Dee needs a Gucci handbag, so,
I need a new art center.
Well, are you having a silent auction there too? I know that.
So we're also I've donated not these pieces behind me, but pieces similar to that of my work. I don't know if there's anybody else. Maybe we'll see if we can get a piece of bone jewelry from Michelle.
Oh, from Michelle Moore, yeah.
So it's a fundraiser that I've become, very. I work. So let me tell you a little bit about my work life. For the past 20 years, I've been fortunate to be able to work with companies. So I'm a storyteller, and I help companies tell stories. So, I got to work with the Art Center on what is their DNA, what is their big idea? How are they, changing the community and working with everybody on, their brand and their identity. I kind of became enamored with the organization, and now we're trying to figure out, how to step forward into the future. And they need a new space. I am going to talk about at the event, and I'll talk about it right now. I'm very fortunate to have met a lot of people in my life that we can get to come and do conversations about the arts. So I want to do a series of arts programming next year through the Arts Center, where we do play readings. My love is theater as well as the visual arts. And there's nothing I think more inspiring to a community than to do theater, which gets people to talk about issues in the community. Live theater is something that I don't think can be replaced with Zoom. I'm happy to be talking to you right now through StreamYard, but there is nothing like sitting together with members of the community and watching a play. So I have a play, for example, I wrote about a true story. Frederick Douglass, who you might remember, wrote essentially the first slave narrative. Frederick Douglass was the first Black man to be asked to go to the White House to advise the President of the United States. They sat in the White House, Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass sat together in the White House for 2 hours and spoke to each other. Nobody knows what they said. But I'm a playwright, so I made it up. And I wrote a play about Frederick Douglass and Abraham Lincoln in 1863 talking. Now, hopefully that will be produced on Juneteenth at the Lincoln Theater in Washington, D.C. We're trying to raise the money for that. I don't know if that'll happen or not, but that is something I can bring. We can do it in Welland Park. We can hire 2 actors. We can put on a show, and then we can all, as a community, sit after the show and talk about America in a way that's not really political. It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or a Republican. We all love America, and we all need to look at the history of America and our Civil War and how divided we were in 1863, and how these 2 people, a white man and a Black man, sat together, one of them coming from a log cabin, the other one coming from a slave cabin, and they're both sitting in a White House in 1863 talking about making America better. And, maybe you have an idea of, and so for me, it's about stimulating open conversation. And we need to keep the Northport Arts Center around to do that. Sometimes it's about, providing people a venue to make a pot or make a canvas. And other times it's about, to be part the audience of a play. A play isn't done until it's performed for an audience. I can write a play. I'm only halfway there when I finish writing it. It's only done when the audience partakes in the watching of the play, and then the audience talks back to me and the actors about the experience of sitting through the play. And I can learn from that, and they can learn from that. Then I can go home and rewrite it. It's a live thing. It's not finished. So I want to do plays at Welland Park with audiences. I want to bring great artists in to speak. And I want to teach. I'm a professor, so we're going to do lectures as well where we teach. We just need money to do these events.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely. And how would people get a hold of you, Richard?
rkrevolin@yahoo.com is my email. If you go to any of those websites, it's on there. But it's simply my first initial R as in Richard, RKREVOLIN @yahoo.com. And I mean, obviously, they could contact the Arts Center and get my email there. Very easy. I have a weird name, so it's not like there's other. It's not like John Smith @yahoo.com where there's going to be other people. So it's easy to find me. But I think next winter, there's. I'll give an example. Carol Kleinberg is in Sarasota. She started the Sarasota Jewish Theater Company alone with no money, and she's doing plays in Sarasota, and she's selling out every show. I mean, people want theater. People want arts,
Right.
Especially in the winter. Although maybe we need to do stuff in the summer when nothing is happening as well. Because I'm here. I'm not a snowbird. I'm here full time. I have a lot of experience putting arts entertainment together, and so we want to make that happen. Ideally, the Northport Arts Center will end up in a venue with a theatrical space.
Right.
So that besides having an art studio, so you can go make a pot on Saturday afternoon in the art studio, but then go have dinner, then come back Saturday night and see a play or see a lecture, and you don't need $1 million venue. You need a few lights and you need a black box and you need some chairs.
Yeah. You're talking my language.
A fire exit.
Yeah.
And if we have those things, we can do. And there are great actors in town. There are great writers I'm working with who have plays that they don't know what to do with them. There's
so many venues too in the area, and Sarasota is one of the top small towns in the USA that does have that, and we're trying to get that moving down into Northport, even though you have Venice Theater too. Venice Theater is the second top community theater in the nation, in case anybody.
Wow, I didn't know that. Yeah.
Sarasota is, I think it's number one is a top art city in the nation. A small community, but and the arts brings into the county of Sarasota over, I think it's $350 million a year. They're the top what do you call it? People that employ, people.
Oh, yeah, the number one employer, yeah.
That employ people in the single number one employer in the Sarasota County job is in the arts, which a lot of people don't know, and how important the arts are not only to your mental state and for development in that, but to your community for surviving and for thriving in both different ways, because I'm not an artist, but I love the arts. And so I've always been involved in the arts in the background more so than I'm not a stage person that I do stage, but I can do improv. And I actually developed the Kids on Stage program in Charlotte County. Right. So one of the things that what Richard is saying too is everybody needs that outlet. Mm-hmm. And I know there's people that even with sewing, because when you're doing costuming, with a live theater, I have some crazy friends that are costumers, and one of them is she wants to be authentic, that she actually researches that period of time and makes sure that the costuming goes with the play, that for the time frame and that, and that's. Oh, and it's a history lesson too. When you're going to a play, whether it's a musical or a straight play, you learn things. And the director, Richard, you're a director, you direct. It is your vision too. A lot of times you'll go and see a play that it's the same play and the words are the same, but it's how the director sees it and what their vision is, how their staging is with it. So it's just a lesson learned, right? And
Well, that's the ideal when you're in a collaborative art form where 1 + 1 + 1 = 5, not 3. So you're having different artists. So everybody, the expression is everybody. Let's take our egos and let's leave them at the door. We come together and we work as collaborative artists. The director, I guess, ultimately is the loudest voice. But I just finished directing off Broadway, and all the actors looked at me and said, like, this was like my favorite experience as an actor. And I said, why? And they said, well, one, I've never seen a director take the script and literally rewrite it on stage in rehearsals, because I'm a writer-director. And they said I never was given the freedom as an actor to have input in a new work. Most if you're doing Death of a Salesman, you can't change it. And the director, but I would stage it with the actors and go, I know where I envisioned you standing, but does that feel? They go, well, I really want to do this. I feel like my character would do this. Go, well, try it. Let's see if it works. And we work together to find it. The only reason I went into visual arts is a lot of times, though, you write a movie and you need $10 million to finish it. You write a play and you need tens of thousands of dollars to produce it. You do a painting, take the painting, and you can have a vision and you buy a canvas for $50 and you can pick the colors and the tone and you can do it all yourself. So becomes a little bit self-indulgent. But I've found now actually I'm getting more commissions with my art, and people will say, I like that painting, but my pillows are this color. Can we do that painting? And I used to be like, I'm an artist. I don't paint to match pillows, And now I'm like, you know what? It's for your wall. And if your pillows are that color and it's going to be above those pillows, let's work together to make it work on your wall. And that's fun for me, and they feel like they have input in the art, and again, it becomes collaborative again, because I'm not threatened by, their use of their pillow color. I mean, I can work with that. So, that becomes the process. And I've become very much a fan of that process. Hollywood's a whole different ball game, where you have a producer who's put the $10 million and he needs this and this and this. And then you have, they call the 800-pound gorilla, Tom Cruise shows up and Tom Cruise wants this. Well, guess what? Tom Cruise gets that, So it depends who the 800-pound gorilla is. But when we're doing work at the Northport Arts Center, there are no 800-pound gorillas. So that equality leads to the best type of collaboration.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just a great analogy of talking about the 800-pound gorilla in the room, that they do get what they want because they have the name that comes with it. And it could be that the movie will bomb, but because of the name. Richard, what made you go into, I know that we talked earlier and you went to Yale. What did you get your degree from Yale?
I was actually a history major, and I minored in history of art. And so that's why a lot of my plays, so like the Lincoln play, is based on a study of history. I mean, I had to read all the letters that Abraham Lincoln wrote. I mean, imagine being tasked. Here's your task. You have 2 hours where you have the two most brilliant prose stylists. In essence, the two best writers of the 19th century, best American writers, Lincoln and Douglas, sitting in a room, write what comes out of their mouth. And so you read everything they've written. You get a sense of their voice, and then you try to capture it. And you'd have to come see the play and see if I failed or succeeded. You know,
Wait.
yeah, you know,
I can't wait to see this.
Try, and you have to make it funny. I mean, Lincoln was supposed to be funny. You know, everybody said he was a charming guy. He wasn't a good-looking guy, but he was smart and charming. And Douglas was a very brilliant man who was an autodidact. He was black. He wasn't allowed to go to school. He had to teach himself how to write and to read. And he read every book he could. You know, this is a time where people read books. Remember books? People used to read. You know?
I do. Actually, I have.
Now these things are coasters. We put drink in them so we don't ruin our. You know, but they used to be something. You know, so and speaking of books, so what I did, if you're interested, I had 40 hours of interviews that I had to condense into 55 minutes. That's the job of a documentary filmmaker. Get a lot of stuff. So I hired somebody to transcribe all 40 hours. So if you want to read every interview, every word, it's in the book on Amazon. But it's a different experience. It's incredible to read the people I interviewed. But I took all the highlights of the play itself and all the survivors' testimony and the experts, and I made a 55-minute film that was on PBS. And you can see the difference if you read the book or you watch the film. And so, you know, they're just things you can't get on movies.
Right. You have to condense it down. Yeah.
And so that's why I did that. Go ahead.
Will you have your book for sale?
Yeah, you can get it on Amazon right now. There's a cheap version in black and white, and then there's a more expensive one where it's all full color images.
Oh, okay.
And I'll probably bring a few. Sure, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, you should bring a few because
you can see the rehearsals. But these are stills from the movie. I mean, and you can buy the movie on Amazon Prime, you know, and rent it and watch if you can't make the, you know, but if you do that, the Art Center's not getting any money. So, you know, we'll have to, you know, so, but yes, we'll try to bring some books. That's a good idea.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. Well, what, Dee Dee?
He could sign a book.
Well, that's what I'm saying, that he should be doing autographing them too. One of the people that's watching us right now was Linda Shell from Writers on the Air, because with the radio station, if you're a writer, on Tuesdays they do filming of their Writers on the Air that airs on Sunday with the radio station. That's for people that do original work. And I'm just giving them a plug right now, that in case you are an author, that you're a poet, you write and want to read excerpts of your books and stuff, you can do that on Tuesday evenings at Common Grounds Meeting Hall, 12735 Tamiami Trail in Northport. Show up at 5:30 at night. I think they start at 6 and they get done at 7 o'clock, and they do a 55-minute show. That they do that just for any of the people, because Richard, you're an author, you're a writer, and how much time? I mean, when I'm thinking about it, and I'm looking at your all the things that your accolades of everything that you've written and done, time wise. I think that's why I don't write, because it takes so much time and you have to do a lot of editing, right?
Yeah, every project you think you can do in a few weeks or months, and it ends up taking a few years. Yeah, I mean, it's a long thing.
Process. No, when you're doing that, when you like this project, you explained to us how that came about. But every project, are you intentful about what you're doing, or does it kind of just grow its own legs?
Well, I mean, everyone, it's always interesting. I've been fortunate to teach and lecture around the world, and a lot of times you get people asking questions about process, and there are people who, Isabel Allende, that she'll only start a book on like June 2nd or something. So she has a time, she has to start a book on a certain day. There are people who write, they have to write on a legal pad, freehand. Everyone has their rituals and their things. But what you see is the people who are writers, they write. They don't sit in coffee shops talking about writing. They sit at home, in the dark, and they write a lot. And most of us have to write 5 or 10 books before we get published. And most people quit before they get to that point. And it's hard, and our society is not supportive of the arts. Most people have to have other jobs, not as writers, so it's hard. It's just hard that, everyone loves the creative rush of writing a beautiful sentence and making a painting. And, we all love that. And then nobody really wants to do marketing to sell anything. They just want,
they want to write it and have it sell itself. And you do have to be a marketer to be able to sell your product if you want to make a living by it.
Yeah, it's hard.
And you're as an actor, even, you are the product. So you have to actually sell yourself too. And a lot of people don't realize when you are an actor, and I'm getting off track here, but with an actor or somebody in the performing arts, it's a lot of networking too. You don't say no. You learn how to do things that you didn't think that you could do. And it's networking and learning, having people know who you are in that world. Anyhow, I'm getting off track with that because we're talking about
No, but I think you're absolutely, that's a function of a mindset that people who are successful in the arts, are people who are flexible and fluid. Anytime someone comes to one of my classes and they says they'll look and I'll start to give them feedback and they'll say, no, I have a vision. This is perfect for Netflix. And, I don't want to change anything. And they're not going to succeed in the arts.
Right.
Because, I moved to Hollywood to write movies, and I ended up becoming a playwright and then a professor. And then my books started getting published. And then I got a movie deal. You can't dictate the direction, but you see the people, the world will push you in certain areas, and you have to be open to flowing with that as an artist if you want to survive and move forward.
Right.
And it's hard.
Yeah, those are flexible or never bent out of shape. I always live by that, right, Dee Dee?
You just said it earlier.
Yeah, that's one of the things. Those people that aren't flexible enough you have to be able to bend. You have to be able to open your mind, because your way may not be what the visionary is looking for, whoever's paying for you. It may not be what your vision is, but it may be theirs, and it may be a better way of looking at things. I just, just to see the end result, and that's why I said when I'm doing different things, I don't care how you get there, as long as we get to the end and it's a good product. working even with business things. So looking at that, where's your other hat?
Oh, so I got my, I guess I wear many hats.
Let's go. There's a vision. That's a different vision. And see, if you look at
in the arts, you have to wear a lot of hats. So,
you do. And I will be. No.
All right.
All right. And where's Dee Dee? Dee Dee doesn't have a. Do you have a hat? Here you go. So and you'll have to be able to wear a bunch of different in life.
We can, anybody, we get sponsors, we just put them on the hats. Right?
Yeah, there you go. And you can wear it, and it can be designed however you want it. That's one thing about the different hats that you wear in life. Right. You can have it designed however you want to be at that moment. We're ending at the end of our program, getting to the end of our program, but I want to let our audience know that seeing this film that's coming, it's a documentary, and it was made by Richard for PBS. It's been shown on PBS before. Richard, what's the name of the show? Where is it being shown? How much is it? Oh, and do you know what the food menu is?
Well, I know that we were talking about pork loin, and that's been vetoed. So we're going to try to get something more popular. I mean, I'm basically a pescatarian, a vegetarian. I'll eat a little fish now and then. So I don't know. I think we're going to try to do a really nice buffet to have lots of choices. And but we do need reservations so we can make sure we have enough for everyone. We're hoping to get a lot of people. Both people who live in the community of Venice and people from outside in Northport. If you want to put that flyer up again, so so this is the film. So what'll happen is, I guess, there's lots of parking. You drive into the gate. You have to enter Venice Golf and Country Club on Center Road in Venice, 6 o'clock. I think
6 o'clock, the doors open.
We're going to eat first. Yeah. Dee Dee, should we eat first and do the movie after? And we haven't really even figured out the sequence, but probably,
I say yes.
We don't want people eating during the film. It's only 55 minutes.
First,
eat first and then show the viewing. Yes.
And then we have, the auction of the art.
Yeah.
And then, I think maybe the most important part is the Q&A after. So
yeah, absolutely.
Obviously, if you have to go home, you can go home, but people are invited to stay and to talk. I mean, there's a guy in the movie, a survivor, who ended up, he had never directed a play until he got to the concentration camp, ended up directing plays there, and then became a theater director as a occupation for his career.
Wow.
And he turned to me, and it's in the movie. And I started crying, when I realized he was speaking in Czech, so I didn't know what he said. And then when the translator told me, I started weeping. He and it became really the subtitle for the project. He said, doing theater was an act of art versus death. It really was. These people were living much closer to death than we are. At any moment, they could be shipped to a death camp. And so they made a conscious choice. If you're going to be sent away next week, what do you want to do today? And they chose to create art. Whether that was painting, there's a lot of painting. You can type in the children's art of Terezin and see the children's art. These were children who were choosing to make art in the face of death. And there was singing and there was cabaret and theater and opera, and they had a symphony orchestra in the basement that would play.
Yeah, that's amazing. Unfortunately, we have to end our show now, but remember, April 17th, call 941-492-9600 for tickets for making it in Terezin. Yeah. And you can ask those questions directly with Richard that evening, and you'll have a Q&A after the production. So there will be decent food there. I can guarantee that they will have decent food. They don't know what yet, but it will have it. And thank you, everybody, for coming on today. There are choices in life that we can make, and it's whether to be kind or not to be kind. What do we always choose, Dee Dee?
We always choose to be kind.
Thank you, Richard, for being with us today. Thank you to our audience and everybody there. You're listening to us on WKDW 97.5 FM Rural Community Radio out of Northport, Florida. Have a great day. See you again next week on Kaleidoscope of the Arts. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.